The rain fell hard over the quiet little town that night. Most people stayed inside, windows shut, lights dim. But inside a small cafe on the corner, warm yellow lights glowed. Emily stood behind the counter, wiping the same cup for the third time. It was another slow night. Her cafe didn't get many customers this late, especially not in weather like this. She was about to close up when the door creaked open. Cold wind rushed in, and with it, a man stepped through. He wore a soaked military jacket. His boots were covered in mud, his face unshaven. His eyes, they looked lost, tired, broken. He said nothing, just walked in slowly and sat at the farthest table near the window. Rain dripped from his sleeves onto the floor. Emily felt something in her chest. She couldn't explain it. Maybe it was the way he moved. Like his body was here, but his soul wasn't. Maybe it was the silence around him, heavy like a secret. She didn't ask him what he wanted. She just walked to the kitchen and started cooking. A warm plate of chicken, stew, fresh bread, and a cup of black coffee. She placed it in front of him gently, without saying a word. The soldier looked at the food, then at her. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. He just stared for a moment, like he wasn't sure if he was allowed to feel anything. Then he gave a small nod. That was all. He ate quietly, spoon slow and steady, like every bite reminded him he was still alive. Emily didn't ask his name. She didn't charge him. When he stood up to leave, he reached into his pocket. She shook her head. "It's on the house," she said softly. For a second he stood still, staring at her. Then he turned around and walked out into the storm. The door closed behind him. The cafe felt strangely empty after he left. She didn't know why she did it. Maybe it was just kindness. Maybe it was something else. Something about the silence in his eyes. The next morning, Emily woke to the sound of something heavy rumbling outside. She pulled back the curtain and froze. There were tanks, real army tanks, blocking the road outside her cafe. Soldiers in full gear stood guard, speaking into radios. Her heart raced. She barely had time to think before someone knocked on her door. 3 heavy knocks. She opened it slowly, her hands shaking. 2 soldiers stood there. One of them held a photo. "Are you Emily?" he asked. She nodded. The soldier showed her the photo. It was the same man from last night. The tired soldier. Did this man come here? Emily's mouth went dry. She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, he was here. What did he say to you? The soldier asked. Did he leave anything behind? No, she said. He didn't talk much. He just ate and left. The soldiers looked at each other. He's wanted, one said. He's dangerous. Emily's chest tightened. Dangerous? That man? He didn't even speak. He barely looked up from his food. Why would a dangerous man walk into a cafe and say nothing? She asked quietly. The soldiers didn't answer. They just looked around, scanning the cafe. One of them stepped inside without asking. He looked under the tables, behind the counter. Emily stood there, frozen. Something wasn't right. Then the soldier found something. A folded napkin tucked under the edge of the table where the man had sat. He picked it up and opened it. Inside was a short note, written in careful letters. Thank you. You'll understand soon. The soldier read it, then looked at Emily again. You're coming with us. Emily's eyes widened. Why? I don't know him. We have orders, he said. You helped a man the government is searching for. We need to know everything. Before she could respond, they led her outside. Her neighbors stood on their porches, whispering, staring. Emily was taken into the back of a military truck. She had no idea where she was going, or why that one small act of kindness had brought the army to her door. All she could think about was the way he looked at her. That quiet nod, that broken silence. Who was he really? And what had she stepped into without even knowing? The truck drove away, leaving her cafe behind, engines humming through the empty street. Emily sat inside, heart pounding, wondering what the next hour would bring. Taken by the army, Emily faces questions she can't answer. 800 words in third-person, suspenseful, and simple English, written in paragraphs without headings. The military truck moved fast through the wet streets. Rain still poured, tapping loudly on the metal roof above Emily's head. She sat on a cold bench, her hands shaking in her lap. 2 soldiers sat across from her, silent, watching her closely. She had never been in trouble before, never even received a parking ticket. And now, she was being taken away like some kind of criminal. They didn't say where they were going. No one explained anything. Emily asked once, her voice trembling, "Where are you taking me?" One soldier just looked at her and said, "You'll see." That was it. After nearly an hour, the truck stopped. The door opened and the soldiers let her out. They were at a military base. Tall fences, armed guards, watchtowers. Everything looked serious. Too serious. Emily was taken into a large gray building, her wet shoes squeaking on the floor as they walked. They put her in a plain white room with a single table and 2 chairs. A small camera blinked red in the corner. She sat there, alone, for a long time. No phone, no answers, just silence and the sound of her own heartbeat. Finally, a man walked in. He wasn't wearing a uniform. He had a suit, clean-cut hair, and sharp eyes. He looked at her without smiling. "Emily," he said. "I'm Agent Carter." She nodded slowly. "You gave a free meal to a soldier last night," he said. "Tell me everything." Emily told him exactly what happened. How the man came in during the storm. How he looked tired and silent. How he barely spoke. "He didn't threaten me," she said. "He didn't do anything wrong." Agent Carter watched her carefully. "Did he give you a name?" "No." "Did he leave anything besides the note?" "No," she said. "Just the napkin with the words, 'Thank you. You'll understand soon.' That's all." Carter leaned forward. "Emily, that man isn't just a soldier. His name is Commander Rains. He was declared dead 3 years ago in a secret operation. But now he's back, and no one knows why." Emily blinked. "Dead? Are you sure?" Carter nodded. "He vanished with top military intelligence. If that information falls into the wrong hands, it could start a war. And now he shows up in your cafe? Says nothing? Leaves a message?" "But he didn't seem dangerous," she whispered. "He seemed broken, like he needed help." Carter stood and paced the room. "We don't believe in coincidences here, Emily. We believe in signs. And this man, he chose your cafe. For a reason." Emily's chest tightened. "You think I'm involved?" "We don't know," Carter said. "But we need answers. And if you can't give them, we'll keep you here until you can." She felt her stomach turn. "I don't know anything," she said, voice cracking. "Please, I just gave him a meal." Carter looked at her one last time. "If you think of anything, tell us immediately. Because trust me, Emily, this man is not who he appears to be." He left the room. Minutes later, a guard came and took her to a small locked room. No windows, just a bed and a metal door. She sat down, heart pounding. All this for a bowl of stew and a moment of kindness? She stared at the wall, trying to remember everything about the man. The way he held the spoon, the way he stared out the window. That single nod before he left. None of it made sense. Then something clicked in her mind. There had been something under his jacket, a patch on his sleeve, partially torn. She didn't think much of it at the time, but now she remembered the symbol. It wasn't any regular army insignia. It was something different. Something she'd never seen before. Could that have been a secret unit? Something the government hid from the public? She wasn't sure. But now, trapped in this cold room, Emily realized something. Her night of kindness wasn't over. It had only just begun. And somewhere out there, Commander Rains was still moving, still hiding, and possibly watching. She closed her eyes. What have I gotten myself into? Outside the locked door, a soldier whispered into his radio. She remembers something. She just doesn't know it yet. Far away in the shadows of the city, a figure in a wet army jacket watched the base from a rooftop. He whispered, "Hang on, Emily. I didn't lead them to you. I led them away." Then he vanished into the night. Emily didn't sleep. The small metal room felt more like a cage with every passing hour. Her mind kept running in circles, thinking about the soldier, the strange patch on his sleeve, and the way he looked at her like he was silently saying, "Goodbye." In the early morning, the door opened with a heavy clank. 2 guards entered without a word. They led her through long hallways under the base, deeper than she thought the place even went. Finally, they stopped in front of a thick steel door. One of them pressed a code into the wall panel. The door opened slowly with a hiss. Inside was another room, this one filled with monitors, maps, and screens showing satellite images. A few people in uniforms turned to look at her, then looked away quickly like she wasn't supposed to be there. In the center stood Agent Carter. "You said he didn't speak," he said as she entered. "He didn't," Emily replied. "But he looked at you like he knew you," Carter said. "We watched the security footage. He stared at you too long. That wasn't random." Emily felt her throat tighten. "I don't know him." "Look again," Carter said. He motioned to one of the monitors. A paused video appeared on the screen. It was the moment the soldier sat in her cafe. The frame zoomed in on his face. Then it zoomed in again on his eyes. "Do they look familiar?" Carter asked. Emily stepped closer. The eyes were tired, hollow, but something inside them flickered. A kind of pain, and maybe recognition. But she couldn't explain it. "I've never seen him before," she said again, her voice shaking. Carter sighed. "We think he's trying to contact someone. Maybe you. Maybe not. But here's what's strange. He's been spotted before. Twice. And both times, he left something behind." He handed her a small clear bag. Inside was a napkin, just like the one he left at her cafe. But this one had something else. A hand-drawn sketch. It showed a symbol. A tree split in half with fire on one side and water on the other. Under it, a single line. "The roots are buried deep." "What does it mean?" Emily whispered. "We're hoping you can tell us," Carter said. "I've never seen that before," she replied. But in the back of her mind, something tickled. That symbol. It felt like a memory trying to wake up. Before Carter could say more, an officer rushed into the room. "Sir, we have something," the man said. "Security drone picked up movement outside the east perimeter. We think it's him." Carter snapped to attention. "Get units ready. Emily, you're coming with us." "What?" "Why?" she asked, backing away. "Because if he's watching you, he'll come closer. And when he does, we'll catch him." "No, you're using me as bait," she shouted. But Carter was already walking out. The soldiers followed. Emily had no choice but to go with them. They led her outside, where armored vehicles were ready. She climbed into one, heart pounding. As they reached the edge of the base, the soldiers spread out. Carter stayed close to her. They waited. Minutes passed. Then, movement. From the tree line beyond the fence, a figure stepped out. Same jacket, same heavy steps. Commander Rains. He raised his hands slowly, showing he wasn't armed. The soldiers shouted at him. He didn't move. Carter whispered, "Talk to him." Emily's throat went dry. She stepped forward carefully. "Why did you come back?" she called out. Rains looked directly at her. His eyes were sad, tired. But he said only one word. "Run." Suddenly, gunfire erupted from the forest, but not from him. It was an ambush. Explosions shook the ground. Soldiers shouted. Carter grabbed Emily and pulled her behind a truck. In the chaos, Rains ran toward her. She saw him clearly now. He had a wound on his side. He was bleeding. He reached her just as the truck behind them exploded. He looked into her eyes and said, "They're not your army. They want the truth buried." Then he collapsed. Emily screamed. More soldiers ran in. But they weren't part of Carter's team. They had a different patch. The same one from Rains's jacket. And that was when Emily realized there was a second army. And they weren't here to protect her. They were here to silence the truth. And now, she was right in the middle of it. Smoke filled the air. Explosions echoed in the distance. Emily coughed, her ears ringing. Rains lay on the ground, blood soaking through his jacket. His last words kept repeating in her head. "They're not your army. They want the truth buried." She didn't understand. Was Carter lying? Were the soldiers around her not who they said they were? Before she could think more, a man in a dark uniform grabbed her arm. He wasn't from Carter's team. His uniform had the same strange symbol Rains had drawn, the split tree with fire and water. He pulled her away from the burning truck. "We have to go," he said quickly. "Now." "Who are you?" she asked, struggling. "Someone who still serves the real commander. We don't have time. They'll kill you if you stay." He dragged her toward a black transport vehicle parked at the edge of the forest. Shots flew past them. One hit the dirt just inches from Emily's foot. They jumped into the vehicle. The driver hit the accelerator and tore through the trees. Emily turned to look behind them. She could still see Rains lying in the dirt, not moving. Her heart twisted. They drove for almost an hour without speaking. The vehicle stayed off the main roads, taking narrow paths through forests and rocky ground. Finally, they stopped in front of an old warehouse, half covered in vines. Inside, Emily found herself in a hidden base, smaller, quieter, and filled with people who all wore the same patch as Rains. But these people looked different. Tired, wary, like they'd been hiding for a long time, one woman approached her, sharp-eyed and serious. "You're the girl from the cafe." "How do you know me?" Emily asked. "Commander Rains told us. Before he left, he said he would try one last time. He hoped you'd listen." "Listen? To what? I don't even know who he is." The woman nodded slowly. "Then it's time you learned." They led Emily to a room in the back, dimly lit. On the wall were maps, photographs, documents, evidence of something big. She was shown a video. It was grainy and old. It showed soldiers, hundreds of them, standing in a valley. Rains was there, leading them. A man in a black suit stepped into view. "That's General Holloway," the woman said, "the man who betrayed his own people." In the video, Holloway spoke to the soldiers, telling them their mission was canceled, that they were being erased from all records, that their loyalty was dangerous. Rains protested. Holloway ordered the troops to turn on him. Many refused. Those who resisted were marked as enemies, hunted, silenced. Rains escaped that day, with a few loyal soldiers. They went underground, trying to expose the truth. But the government erased them from history. Their names, their missions, everything. Gone. Emily's hands shook as she looked at the files. But what does this have to do with me? The woman showed her another photo. A young girl standing beside her father. A soldier. "That's you," the woman said. "And that's your father." Emily stared at the photo. She remembered it. Barely. Her father had left when she was small. She thought he had died in the war. "He didn't die," the woman continued. "He was one of Raines's men. He was part of the unit that got erased." Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. "But why come to my cafe now?" she asked. "Because Raines was dying, and he needed someone the world wouldn't suspect. Someone outside the system. You." Emily leaned back, overwhelmed. The quiet soldier who sat in her cafe had been her father's comrade, maybe even his best friend. "He gave you something, didn't he?" the woman asked. "A napkin?" Emily reached into her pocket and pulled out the folded piece of paper. It was crumpled now, stained with water and dirt, but the symbol was still there. The woman nodded. "It's a key, not just a drawing. That tree, it marks a hidden archive, a place where Raines stored real evidence, videos, orders, messages from the erased soldiers." "And you want me to find it?" Emily asked. The woman didn't answer at first. Then she said, "No, we want to find it together. But we need you. The location. Only someone related to those soldiers can open the archive. It's bio-locked. Your blood, your DNA, that's the key." Emily stared down at the napkin, her heart racing. She had never asked to be part of any of this. She had been just a cafe owner in a quiet town. Now she was being asked to unlock secrets powerful men had tried to bury. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, a choice waited. Emily didn't feel brave. She didn't feel ready. But she knew one thing now. She wasn't walking away. Not when the truth was finally within reach. Not when her father had died trying to protect it. The journey to the archive was long and dangerous. Emily sat in the back of the black transport vehicle, holding the napkin with the symbol tight in her hands. The tree, split down the middle, one side burning, the other frozen, felt like it was burning into her mind. Every bump in the road made her more nervous. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't trained. But the people beside her treated her like she mattered. The woman named Sergeant Lane sat beside her. Silent. Serious. She had lost too many friends to this war nobody talked about. In front, the driver was the same man who had rescued Emily from the wreckage. Mason. He glanced at Emily in the rearview mirror every now and then, like checking to see if she was okay. They drove through hills, forests, and empty back roads. There were no signs, no GPS, only old maps and a tracker Raines had left behind. The archive was hidden in a forgotten military site buried in stone and overgrowth, deep in the mountains. They arrived at nightfall. The facility looked like an old bunker, half sunk into the hillside. Its metal doors were rusted shut. Moss and vines covered most of the entrance. Emily stepped out of the vehicle and stared at the place. Her chest tightened. She didn't know why, but something about the air here felt heavy, like the ground itself was holding its breath. Sergeant Lane scanned the door with a device. A light blinked red. "Still sealed. It needs your touch," Lane said quietly. Emily stepped forward. She placed her hand over a small pad hidden behind a metal panel. It was cold. A light turned green. The door hissed and slowly opened, dust pouring out like smoke. They stepped inside with flashlights. Everything was covered in dust. Old screens, papers, maps, untouched for years. The deeper they went, the colder it got. In the center of the room was a circular platform with a glowing ring above it, the archive core. Emily stood in front of it. The napkin had the symbol, but now she could see that same tree carved into the floor beneath the platform. Sergeant Lane handed her a small vial. Your DNA, just a few drops. It'll open the system. Emily hesitated, then poured the contents into the reader. A blue light scanned the room. Then, the screens flickered on. One by one, recordings began to play. The first was of Rains. He looked younger, strong. His voice was calm but serious. If you're watching this, it means I failed. But it also means someone made it here, and that someone is probably the child of one of us. Emily's hands shook. Rains continued. We were loyal. We followed orders, until those orders became wrong. We were told to destroy a village that wasn't a threat. We refused. That's when we became the enemy. The screen showed photos, burned towns, erased files, lists of soldiers declared dead who were actually hunted. General Holloway didn't want truth, Rains said. He wanted silence. He created a fake story. He called us traitors, and he sent the rest of the army to kill us. More files appeared, hidden communications, names, proof of the operation. Videos of soldiers surrendering only to be executed. Emily felt sick. This was more than just a betrayal. It was a crime too big for one man. It was a system designed to erase anyone who disobeyed. Then, a final message from Rains. To the one who finds this, don't let this stay buried. The truth deserves light, and the names of the fallen deserve to be remembered. A tear rolled down Emily's cheek. But just as she turned to Sergeant Lane, alarms blared. Mason shouted from the hallway, "We've been followed!" Lights flashed red. The screen started to shut down. "Download everything!" Lane yelled. "Get that core out of here!" Emily grabbed a portable drive and inserted it into the system. Files began transferring, slowly. Too slowly. Outside, the sound of gunfire echoed through the trees. "They're here," Mason called out. The bunker shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. Lane pulled Emily close. "We're not letting them take this, no matter what." Emily nodded, her fear replaced by something harder. Anger. Her father had died for this. Rains, too. She wouldn't let it end here. The screen flashed. Transfer complete. Emily ripped out the drive. They ran back toward the exit. The door was already half destroyed by explosives. Smoke poured in. Mason tossed a flash grenade. Go. Go now." They burst into the forest, dodging bullets, running for the truck. Emily looked back once and saw the bunker collapse, the truth nearly lost again. But this time, she held the truth in her hands. And she wasn't going to run anymore. Not now. Not ever. The sky was still dark when Emily stepped out of the van. Her hands clutched the small drive that held everything. Proof of betrayal, the names of the innocent, the crimes of the powerful. Behind her, Sergeant Lane and Mason looked around the empty lot outside the news building. There were no soldiers here. Not yet. "This is the only way," Lane whispered. "Let the people see it. Let the world decide." Emily nodded, even though her heart was pounding. She had never been on TV. She had never even spoken in front of a crowd. But now she was the only one who could tell the story. Rains, her father, all the fallen soldiers. They had trusted her with the truth. Inside the building, a tired-looking journalist stared at the drive as Emily handed it over. "You're serious? This is real?" the woman asked. "Yes," Emily said softly. "Play it. Show everyone." The journalist nodded. Give me 20 minutes. We'll interrupt the broadcast. Outside, the city was waking up. Streets slowly filled with cars. Shops opened. Life moved like nothing was wrong. But everything had changed. Back at her cafe, the windows were still shattered. The door barely stood on its hinges. But Emily returned anyway, sitting at the same table where the soldier had eaten, where it all began. She turned on the radio. The voice of the journalist filled the air. Calm, serious. This morning, we received a file containing secret military records, including video evidence, personal logs, and mission reports of a group known as Ghost Squad. The broadcast played Raines's first video. The airwaves carried the story to every home, every car, every ear. Then the names began. Name after name of soldiers who were called traitors, now revealed as heroes. Across the city, people stopped to listen. In offices, homes, military bases. Emily watched from the cafe window as people slowly gathered outside. First a few, then dozens, then more. Some had seen her on the news. Some had heard the story. Some just felt something in the air, something changing. A soldier walked up the street, in full uniform. Emily tensed, but the soldier saluted her. "Ma'am," he said, his voice steady. "Thank you." Others followed. More soldiers arrived, trucks parked near the square. But no one was here to arrest her. They were here to protect her. Across the city, citizens gathered in silence, not shouting, not panicking, just listening. Then came the real moment. A black car pulled up. The door opened. General Holloway stepped out. The man who started it all. The one who gave the orders that erased lives. He looked calm, powerful. He stepped forward and spoke to the cameras. "These are lies," he said. "The girl has been tricked by traitors and enemies. This is a war tactic, misinformation." But then Mason walked forward. He carried another drive. He held it up. "This contains your signature," Mason said, approving the strikes, erasing the names, sealing the files. "You buried the truth. We dug it up." Sergeant Lane stepped beside him. "You sent us to die, General. And now the world knows." For the first time, Holloway looked shaken. The cameras didn't stop rolling. Reporters asked questions. People shouted. And then, a soldier stepped out of the crowd and removed his badge. He placed it on the ground. One by one, others followed. They weren't turning against their country. They were standing for truth. Emily watched, speechless. Then someone took her hand. A woman. She wore a jacket with a familiar patch. Half a tree, half flame, half ice. "I served with Raines," the woman whispered. "He talked about his daughter all the time." Emily felt tears in her eyes. "He said if the world ever needed a reason to fight, it would be you." A chime came from her pocket. Her phone buzzed, messages from all over, people sharing the files. Stories, pictures, truth. She had lit a fire, and it was spreading. That night, the city did not sleep. People marched with candles, with signs, with names of soldiers who had been forgotten. And at the front of the march walked Emily, not as a fighter, not as a leader, but as the girl who gave one free meal and changed everything. Because sometimes, the smallest act of kindness leads to the loudest truth. And when the truth finally walks in, no one can block the street, not even tanks.